Hello, welcome to Double Talk. I'm Mark Steffen. Normally, Michael Mandel would be sitting here, but he's vacationing in sunny San Diego, California. So taking his place this week is Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Diana Alba-Soular. Thanks for coming, Diana.
Oh, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Glad to have you here.
It's good to be here.
And we'll be talking about things that you've been up to recently. And before we do that, we'll talk about things going on around town. Now, once in a while, I'll call the Sun News to task where you work. And I noticed in Monday's edition, it says right here, Mesilla Valley Kitchen closes. We reported on that 3 weeks ago. Just wanted to tell you.
Okay.
Just saying.
Thanks for the reminder.
But we have a lot of things going on this weekend, including the big arts fair that the Diana Arts Council puts on every year. This is a pretty big deal, and we're putting it on. They're putting it on at the convention center right here in Las Cruces, and gosh, tons and tons of artists are going to be there. They're having a special guest artist. This is their. And if you've never been, I suggest you go. Hal Marcus is the featured artist this year. He's from El Paso, and he's been doing art for 60 years, I think. So all his stuff is always interesting to see. Also going on the same weekend, we'll go on for days and weeks with nothing happening on the weekend, and then all of a sudden several things are going on at once. Also at the Farm and Ranch Heritage Museum, we have Cowboy Days. They're going on. They do that every year. This is the 20th year for Cowboy Days, and it's only $5 to get in, 5 years old and up. That's Saturday and Sunday, Saturday 9 to 5 and Sunday 10 to 4, out there at the Farm and Ranch Museum on West University Avenue. Now, also going on downtown this weekend is Mardi Gras. It's Mardi Gras weekend around the country, especially down in Louisiana. But the bar downtown, the beer bar known as Little Toad Creek Brewery and Distillery, they are sponsoring a Mardi Gras celebration, and that's happening outside Little Toad Creek from March 3rd through the 4th. March 3rd, it starts at 5 o'clock, and March 4th, it's 7 o'clock. There'll be food trucks, there'll be music, there'll be all kinds of things going on down there, and Little Toad Creek will be having all kinds of things going on inside their establishment. So a lot of fun going on down there. Now, I noticed that the city, who has a licensing agreement with Comcast, is looking for public input. They have a franchise agreement with the city has a franchise agreement with Comcast. I was one of the people on the board that helped create the new franchise agreement, which also created the new television station and television studio that the city now runs and uses for city council meetings and school board meetings, and they also produce their own content. And I was on the Cable TV Compliance Commission way back in around 2000 when we did the franchise agreement. Well, it's up for renewal, and the city wants to know what people think of the service they're getting from Comcast. So if you're interested, now they've had 3 meetings already. There's not a lot of people showing up to the meeting. I went to one of the meetings, and there were only 2 other people there. But if you're interested, the city has a survey. It's an online survey. And if you want to see that, just go to www.las-cruces.org. And there will be the survey. You can take it right there and send it on to them. If you want a paper survey, if you don't have access to the internet, that's okay. If you have access to a telephone, you can call up the city and they'll send you a survey, a paper survey. And if you want that, the phone number is 541-2128. 541-2128. Let them know how you feel about Comcast and their service. Also going on this weekend, Saturday, today, if you would like to have your vehicle identification numbers etched into your windows, you can get that done for free. This is an anti-theft program that the Las Cruces Police Department has ongoing. Every car has, the VIN just inside the front windshield,
sure,
for all to see. Mm-hmm. But when people steal a car, all they have to do is rip that off. But if you have the VIN etched into all the windows of your car, now they have to remove all the windows.
Bigger challenge.
That's a bigger challenge, and if they notice that they're there, they're not going to steal your car. And while you get this done, the police will also be there to suggest other anti-theft things you can do to protect your vehicle. And a lot of these vehicles wind up across the border within about an hour.
I know with my own vehicle, there's several etchings of the VIN number on it, so I think maybe in some of the newer models,
They may be doing that.
more standard to.
Yeah, and the police will do this on every window of your car. You know, I hope somebody doesn't pull up with a limousine or a big window van. That could take them forever. But that goes on until 4 o'clock today. So I would get down there right away if you have an interest in doing that. And it's free. You just have to you might have to wait in line for a while, or just wait and go into Walmart and come back out and take your turn. Now, there's been talk about turning Motel Boulevard into Pat Garrett Boulevard.
Yes, that's been an ongoing discussion for several years.
Yes, and there's the Diana Historical Society has been pushing that because Motel Boulevard is misnamed. There's only one motel on the entire street, and so the Historical Society is pushing for Pat Garrett Boulevard. Pat Garrett was the sheriff of Diana County twice. Motel Boulevard has the sheriff's office on that street, and Pat Garrett lies buried in Las Cruces. So some people want that. Other people are now suggesting, well, let's change the name to Legends Avenue or Legends Boulevard and pay tribute to many famous people. They want to put monuments or statuary, something down the median on Motel Boulevard. Legends might be cheaper to make the signs because it's a shorter name. Pat Garrett Boulevard is a longer name. They'd have to change the three freeway signs on the exit.
Cost is one of the big factors that needs to be considered in this issue because replacing signs with different names could be expensive. It
could add up. All the street signs up and down Motel Boulevard need to be replaced. But I remember back in the 80s, many towns changed a boulevard to Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Now that's a pretty long name. They had to make all new signs, but in most cases there weren't expensive freeway signs that had to be recreated.
Sure.
That's where the major expense comes in with these things. I have no problem with Pat Garrett Boulevard. Why not? In fact, Billy Garrett was one of the city councilors, or county commissioners rather, for quite a while. His term is up very soon.
I recall he did emphasize he didn't know of a family connection.
He didn't?
Yes, so I remember him saying that.
I assumed all those Garretts are somehow related. Now, there's a play going on at the university. It's the final weekend. It's called Silent Sky. It's a true story of a female astronomer way back when it was a good old boys clique, really, and she had to battle her way through the obstacles that those old boys putting up against her. But she wound up discovering things and finally eking out a decent career as an astronomer and as a teacher. And so this play is about that. And the final performances are today and tomorrow. There's one today at 2 o'clock, and there's one tonight at 7:30, and then there's one tomorrow, a matinee at 2 o'clock. And after the one tonight, there's going to be a talkback with the cast and the crew. Actually, after the 2 o'clock performance, that is, there's going to be a talkback with the cast and crew and some astronomers from the NMSU astronomy department.
Yeah,
so that could be interesting.
Very interesting, for sure.
And I don't think we'll have any telescopes set up because it won't be dark enough yet. But so that's going on. Like I said, there's always something going on the weekends around here.
Have you seen the play?
I have not seen the play. I hope to go this weekend. And so that's what's going on in Las Cruces this weekend.
There's a lot to choose from, for sure.
Lots to choose from. And you might be able to get them all in. You could do the arts fair and the cowboy days. Do one day and do one the next day. So let's take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll talk about your Pulitzer Prize-winning project that you worked on and take it from there. So we'll be right back after these words.
Call Mark Goldstein, the Safe Money Guy, at 575-556-2472 to learn about innovative strategies now available to help you grow, protect, and preserve your money and financial future, regardless of market conditions.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here! Horizon Granite is here. We'll come to you to customize your kitchen and bathroom with beautiful countertops and cabinets. Find out more at horizongranite.com. Call us at 575-650-3180.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here!
Make yourself a beautiful home.
Come to Tacos El Borrego de Oro in Las Cruces. We are celebrating $1 Taco Tuesdays. Come enjoy authentic Mexican food for the whole family. Bring the family to Tacos El Borrego for $1 Taco Tuesday and Flauta Thursdays.
We are back. This is Double Talk. Mark Steffen along with Diana Alba-Soular. And hey, we just ran Manolo's advertisement there. They're a new sponsor of ours, and we welcome them with open arms and empty stomachs. And their grand opening special is going on this week. It ends Sunday. So they've got specials going on. And get on down there, 605 East Lowman. And they've got, oh, well, it's not a Mexican restaurant, but they've got plenty of Mexican dishes, that's for sure. Look at this, $2.99 for their breakfast special. You've got pancakes, eggs, and bacon. That's cheaper than Denny's. From 7 to 11 in the morning. That's every morning, except they're closed on Mondays. Now, Diana, the project that you got your Pulitzer Prize for, and everybody else that worked on the project, was about the wall, the border wall.
Donald Trump's proposed border wall.
Proposed border wall. Now, we have a partial wall down there for about 600 miles worth, I think. The border, is a division between two countries, but it's also where two countries are joined.
Definitely.
And so that's an issue in itself.
Sure, there's a lot of complexity when it comes to the border, and so for the project that I had worked on that received the Pulitzer, we did the reporting in 2017, and then in 2018 is when it received the award for explanatory reporting, and it was a very comprehensive project, a multimedia project that involved video, photos, reporting in the form of articles, as well as podcasts, and then there's a whole website that ties this all together. There was a helicopter that flew the whole length of the U.S.-Mexico border, and a reporter examined what was actually there on the ground at that time. So the wall that had been built, the wall that had not been built, or well, it's called fencing up until that point. Some people call it a wall. So. And
there's a lot of areas where there is no fencing or no wall, and they shot a lot of footage from the helicopter. And I saw the feature-length documentary about the wall. It aired at it was shown at the film festival last week. Somebody asked the question that I was going to ask: how can somebody get their hands on a copy of that? And apparently nobody really knows yet. It's really not available for public consumption, is it?
I need to check on that further. There is a lot of what was reported in that documentary is available in different formats online. So
already,
if you go to if you just Google the Wall Project USA Today, which is the company that technically owns the Sun News, it's called Gannett. They're part of Gannett Corporation, and you'll find this project. It will pop up pretty easily, and you can actually view the entire U.S.-Mexico border at a certain point where you can click on certain segments and see what's on the ground there.
That's what I did.
So there's just a lot you can do there.
Now, you write for the Sun News. Yes. Explain how you got the assignment and just how you became a part of the whole thing.
Well, in 2017, early 2017, there was still a lot of discussion about the president's proposed border wall and what that would mean if it was actually built. And we as a company, were looking for a way to really explore that very in depth and really drill down into some of the main issues that would come up if there was more wall built, if there was more fencing built. And so the company really turned to its newspapers along the U.S.-Mexico border, and they considered the Las Cruces Sun News to be one of those, since we're in the border region, just a few dozen miles away from the U.S.-Mexico border. And at that time, I was one of the reporters, still like I am today, at the Las Cruces Sun News, and so I was invited to join the project. And in doing so, I was working with editors out of the Arizona Republic in Phoenix, which is another of our large newspapers within this company. And they were also working with reporters in Texas, Arizona, and we were just looking at many different aspects of the U.S.-Mexico border.
And so your assignment was to travel down to the Boot Heel.
Yes, I was looking at the Boot Heel of New Mexico, which is the very southwestern corner of the state, all the way over by Lordsburg and Hachita and Rodeo, New Mexico. And just what I did was I managed to get permission to go with the Border Patrol and hear them, talk about the different issues that were going on the border, and also find out what is it that they do on a daily basis when they're out there patrolling this remote region. And so that was what I did in, I think it was May 2017 when I went out to do a ride-along, basically, with the Border Patrol.
Any idea how many miles of the border you covered?
Probably, let's see, this is just an estimate, but maybe, I don't know, maybe 50 to 60 miles.
Some of it had a wall, and some of it didn't have a wall, some had a fence.
Yes, we drove along certain segments of the U.S.-Mexico border, but we didn't just drive continuously along the border. We were also driving the one highway that's in that region, and visiting different, what are called forward operating bases. And those are sort of like substations for the Border Patrol, where they can have a little base out in this very remote area for their operations.
Did you go to Antelope Wells?
I did go to Antelope Wells. That's one of the few places that they have one of these forward operating bases in New Mexico.
That's a border crossing station.
Yes.
Where recently a number of people have crossed over and given themselves up to the Border Patrol, saying, we're here for asylum.
Yes, that's one of the interesting things that has changed a lot since I had actually ridden along with the Border Patrol that year, is that year when I went in 2017, it was a very low activity year in terms of apprehending immigrants coming across the border. And that showed when I was out there. It was just incredibly quiet. They didn't have one arrest
the whole time
in that region that I was at. And so for them, it was incredibly slow, quiet. And then you compare that to today, and it's done a 180 in terms of the amount of activity going on. And that's mainly due to migrants from Central America who are coming to the United States to seek asylum, to make a claim for asylum. And the federal government has been restricting how many people can go to these major cities, such as El Paso, and come across and make a claim.
Yes.
They've sort of been trying to control the number, and that's, from what we hear, leading people to go to more remote segments of the U.S.-Mexico border, like the Boot Heel, so they can
find a way across.
the port. Yeah.
Right. Many of them are backed up in Tijuana waiting. In fact, the U.S. is sending people over into Tijuana to adjudicate their status, and they're not allowing them to come over. A lot of that is happening within Mexico, and Mexico is allowing this to happen. Now, how long did you have to create your part of the story?
I would say it was a few months that I had worked on it in total in 2017. I believe it published mid to late summer is when most of the package published. There was maybe one article that published a little bit later because it took a little more research time to do. But that wasn't my article, that was a different one.
Do you recall how many words were in yours?
That's a good question. It was a fairly lengthy article, maybe 2,000, 2,500 words. I
looked at it. It seemed to me like there was even more than that.
It could be. Yeah, it was fairly long to say it.
And so the entire project from start to finish, you know how long it took?
I think I began working with the editors in around March or so of 2017. That's just off the top of my head. And then throughout the spring and the summer of 2017, and then into late summer is when we were finalizing everything, ready to go to print or to publish this big package online. So several months.
Now you were down there. You saw sections of the wall where it exists now, and the president talked about a big, beautiful wall.
Yes.
Is it? Or is that possible for such a thing?
Well, it's interesting to refer to it as a wall because there's actually been fencing on the border since the late 2000s with the Secure Fence Act that was passed. And so fencing was built along different segments of the US-Mexico border in response to that. That kind of fencing is not uniform. People might tend to think that there's one type of fence along the US-Mexico border, but it's actually a few different types of fences.
Mm-hmm.
They have, particularly in the urban areas, such as El Paso, they'll have very tall, like 15-foot fencing that they call pedestrian fence. And traditionally that was called fencing under the Fence Act, but I mean, it is a pretty formidable barrier to somebody who's on foot or not that it's impossible to cross, it's just difficult. And then there's shorter fencing that's really not designed to keep people from crossing. It's more designed to keep vehicles. From crossing. And even that can be crossed sometimes with creative means.
Right, but it'll certainly slow them down and keep most people from trying it.
Yeah, and we did talk as part of my project to a rancher in the Boot Hill who had one of those segments of fence. It's called Normandy. They sort of refer to it as Normandy style fence. It's got crossbars, and that was built in her area of the Boot Hill. And she said that did actually slow vehicles coming across, because in the past some vehicles would just blaze across the line like it wasn't there almost. Right. And so she said that did help some. Is what she said.
I've been to places along the border where there's nothing but a barbed wire fence. And that was put up by a rancher to keep his cattle from going into Mexico. Of course, those are easily breached. But if you put up a complete wall, you're going to stop the natural migration of animals, like the leopard and the wolves and many other animals. And what you wind up with is species fragmentation, which could end that species in that region completely.
That was one aspect of. Not an article that I reported on, but it's also in this package. If you go online, there's an article about the jaguar, which has its most of its range is in Mexico, northern Mexico and Mexico, but some individual jaguars do, from what they've been spotted in the southern United States.
They thought it was almost gone, but it's slowly coming back. Yeah, the Mexican gray wolf, which has been reintroduced, roams. They roam 100 miles, and we also have the mountain lion. Now, Trump shut down the government until he got what he wanted for the wall. He didn't get it, but he claimed it's an emergency crisis down there. And when you were there, you didn't really see any crisis at all. Things have changed. What is considered a crisis in a case like this, anyway?
Well, I think the term. It could be depending on who's it's a subjective
who's evaluating
term. Who's evaluating it. I mean, it seems pretty clear that there's a crisis in Central America, and that's resulting in people coming to the United States for refuge, making those kind of claims, and they have a legal right to do that.
Those are the people having the crisis. Not so much us.
And it does result in stress. We have seen in the Boot Hill, it's strained resources of the Border Patrol who are there and the local responders. They've said that's caused them issues because it's a very remote area, not really designed to take in hundreds of people at a time.
And just this very week, we had 180 people from Central America who came up together, and they walked around the end of the wall there. And were apprehended in Sunland Park. They just walked around the end of the fence like that near the base of Mount Cristo Rey, They're just across the river from El Paso. They were apprehended in Sunland Park.
Yeah, and that's one thing that is interesting compared to maybe past decades of immigration. A lot of times people were coming across to evade authorities because they wanted to, and not to say that doesn't still happen, but with a lot of these large groups of immigrants we've been seeing recently, they're not really trying to evade authorities.
Right.
They're actually trying to state an asylum claim and
Right.
have the chance to be here.
They're not smuggling drugs or smuggling people. They're saying, here we are, please help us. We want asylum. Now, if the wall gets built the way Trump wants, will we need the Border Patrol after that?
Well, we did in our series, this Border Wall Project, talk to, not me personally, but another reporter, talked to a smuggler. And his belief was that if there's a bigger wall built, the smugglers will find a way across it because they're pretty
I think we'll always need some Border Patrol.
enterprising.
Some people will always come across, smugglers and what have you, but we may not need them in such high numbers, especially if we probably won't need the National Guard filling in for them. I could talk about this for another hour, but our time is up, Diana.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I
Well, thank you
appreciate
for dropping in and telling us about it. And like she said, you can read all this stuff online. You can see the pictures and the video. And there's your certificate from the Pulitzer Committee
Oh, yeah.
from Columbia University School of Journalism. I was a journalist myself. I was a journalism major in college, so I know how big a deal this is. So, Diana, thanks again.
Thank you
and
so much.
thank you for watching Double Talk.